You're in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and Savareen, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your hollow projector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we're here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. The date is October 6th, 2021. And we got some fun reviews and a quick news update for you today. Going to be talking about the Disney Gallery episode, the finale of season 2 from about a month ago, and some of the topics connected to that. And then we're going to be giving a full review of Star Wars Visions from Disney Plus, going episode by episode, going to break down everything and talk about each story. And it should be a lot of fun. Jason, how's your week been?
Great. New World came out, so I've been playing that. New
Nice.
MMO, no subscription.
Okay.
It's Amazon's MMO, so.
Okay. Do they have a trial thing where you can just try a month free or whatever?
No. Well, it's not subscription, which is kind of
It's not
why I'm willing to try it.
Okay.
So it's good. WoW's
Does
kind
that
of
mean
going down the shitter, so.
Yeah, if it's not a subscription, does that mean that the world is less expansive because they don't have like as many people pumping content into it constantly?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it just came out. I'm not sure what their I know they have like cosmetic things you can buy.
Yeah.
But I don't know beyond that what their revenue model's going to be long term.
Right.
As far as, are they going to pump out expansions? Are they just going to really lean on cosmetic stuff? I don't know.
Right.
So it's Amazon, so they own everything. They make tons of money from all sorts of different places, so they can afford to have like a loss leader on something.
Right.
Because this is their first game, like their first, I think, in-house game. So
I was gonna say I don't recall any Amazon games yet, so they're starting to make some movements into that territory, I guess.
Yeah, they gotta pay for that rocket ship to take Shatner up to space.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I heard about that a few days ago. This should be exciting.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Playing.
Nice. Yeah, I've just been watching some horror movies this week. Obviously, we're almost a week into October here, and I took a break on the Breaking Bad after getting up to the end of season 4, and then just watching some old classics. Some I've never seen. I had never seen An American Werewolf in London until a few days ago. I'd just seen clips.
That's a big one too.
That is a big one. It was very, very key for like makeup and effects and everything. And let's see. I saw that. I revisited They Live. I know I saw a couple others, but also some documentaries too. I started watching the In Search of Darkness 80s movie horror documentary thing, which is like insane. It's like 4 hours.
And that's just the first part.
That's the first part. So I'm about an hour in, and just watching it in segments, night by night.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's really good so far.
Yeah, it was fun to watch both parts over the course of however many nights it took me. But
right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more and then more movies as the month goes on. And probably, I think next week or very soon, you and I are going to be reviewing the Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales.
Yes.
Little sneak peek for what's coming up on the podcast soon. And I saw that last week or 4 or 5 days ago. And so anyway, there's some news here about I think it was about a week ago. They mentioned that the Book of Boba Fett, they gave a firm date for when it's dropping. We kind of knew for a long while. I think we knew when it was first announced that it was going to be like late 2021.
Yeah.
Probably December. Sure enough, it's the very end of December.
Yeah, I actually would have thought, December 29th. I would have, if I had to bet money, I would have bet like right before Christmas.
That would be my guess, like December 10th or something.
But I'm not going to complain. I can't wait.
Yeah, no complaints here. And
the more Tamora, the better.
Yeah. We'll be getting more of that Tamora barrel belly, probably. We'll see. But actually, this will also give me more time to finish up the revisiting of the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy. So I'm looking forward to finishing that again before this premieres.
Wait, are you reading that now? Or you plan
I
on reading it?
I had started to like late last year, I think, or earlier this year, I forget. I got like maybe 100 pages in, and I'm gonna pick up on it again. I'm gonna finish the trilogy. Yes. So it's been well, I mean this I'm rereading the trilogy. I read it back in 2001, I
Yeah.
believe it was. So it's been a long time, and it's not like this that story is overly complex. They're just there's a lot of talking while they're on Tatooine and just standing around, really, from
Mm-hmm.
what I recall. But there was the flashbacks and stuff, and there was things with Vader and the Emperor and things like that. So I'm actually looking forward to rereading the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. You're afraid to tread into those waters again, aren't you?
Um, yeah, it was really tough. All the Barbs and Betrothed.
Come on, we
But I
got some Kudar
really,
Mubat
yeah,
though.
I really like Kudar Mubat and
Yeah,
Balance Sheet. That whole
yeah,
that the whole way that Alien worked was really cool.
yeah, yeah. Definitely very unique for Star Wars.
Well,
So
good luck.
yeah, that's all we could say there. Yeah, what have we got here? We got Disney Gallery, the making of season two. Uh, what did you think of this?
Uh, well, I mean, I like the episode of Mandalorian that it
Absolutely.
was on, so it was interesting to get sort of a peek into how they did it.
Yeah,
Um, I'm surprised that they did use at least partially use deepfake because I thought they didn't. Because
right.
to me, it didn't seem um, as good as good as deepfake could be for Luke.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a thought on that.
but
On well, let me go to it now in case I
yeah,
forget.
yeah,
Okay, when they show you the example throughout the making of this, they show you the process and they show you the temporary versions of their doing his face and
yes,
all this. They show a version of the CG, the finished product after the algorithm and the deep fake and all the data they fed it over all this time. They show you a version that doesn't match the lighting of the scene, so it's just like it's lit like normally, just like without tinting or anything,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and it looks so much better
mm-hmm,
than the background is still blue screen, I think, behind him, and you see
yeah,
part of the corridor. But I was thinking like, wow, it looks so good. But then when they
right.
changed the footage to match the rest of the show and everything, that's when it gives it the fake look to me. So
Yeah,
maybe it was just a lighting thing that
I
made it look more
I
fake.
could see that because when somebody's doing it in their basement, they're not necessarily worried about lighting that much.
Yeah,
Um,
and even in when we see Tarkin in Rogue One, which they reference here, Filoni does, there was like certain shots of Tarkin in Rogue One that were like masterful,
mm-hmm,
and it's because the lighting was different or he was
yeah,
turning his head or something.
right.
But then it was those other shots where it's lit directly face on, and then that's where you can start to point out and notice the quote unquote uncanny valley.
Yeah, yeah.
So just my thought there
You could be
on some of
right.
that.
My, as far as the effect goes, the only thing that seemed off to me was that Luke, young Luke, was not as expressive as I feel like a
Yeah.
natural performance would be.
Yeah, yeah, he was kind of static.
But that might not be like a limitation of the technology or anything. That might just be the performance that they were going for.
And they might have just been
So
wanting to play it safe
that's true too. Yeah.
because as they mention in this from Filoni and Favreau and the director of the episode, I forget his name, but they all
Peyton Reed.
Peyton Reed. That's right. He said he worked on Ant-Man or he
Yes.
directed maybe Ant-Man.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and he's a great guy. I appreciated his opinion on everything. Um, they go into the whole build up to this, like whether they should do it. Like, like here's this idea, and can I get Favreau on board, or vice versa? And then Filoni mentions that if they both like it, that's usually when they think something can work,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have to like convince the other person. But if they
Yeah.
both like, yeah, let's do this. So they talk about the whole build up, how if this is the right thing to do for the character and for the fans, and like, can they pull it off? And not only that, but can they keep it a secret?
Hmm.
And then when they bring in Mark Hamill, and Mark Hamill talks about that whole aspect, can it be kept a secret? And that was almost a third of this documentary episode, and I feel like that was actually a really fascinating insight into actually the current Disney Lucasfilm Star Wars, because obviously this wasn't something dictated at the forefront by Kathy Kennedy.
Hmm.
It was just like their idea, and then they probably like went to her, right after.
Yeah, and
But
before the first season even dropped too, like even before it
yes,
aired, they
right. And I know
had cooked
Filoni
this
likes to
up.
he likes to play the long game because Filoni was having ideas about Thrawn during season one of Rebels before it even started. But he's like, we can't just jump into that right away. We got to
Hmm.
like build into it. So anyway, I like that side of things. And I feel like, and they second guessed themselves the whole way during editing and the script. And of course, they had the red herrings with Plo Koon, and that
I
was
do
actually kind
like
of,
I like how
yeah,
self-aware Filoni is about,
yes,
without saying it, he sort of hints at like this expectation that fans have with him and his
yes,
OCs and stuff, his
uh
original
huh,
characters. That, I mean,
yep.
not that Plo Koon is a original character of his, but if he
But
really
it
likes it,
became his. It
right?
became like his like main thing that he liked to use in Clone Wars. So
Yeah, yeah. So like he's self-aware enough to know like what the fans might expect, you
yes,
know.
yes, it would be like if not that Lucas ever said it directly, but it would be like if Lucas was that kind of self-aware about using Boba Fett again after not really, because I don't think Lucas cared about Fett after the classic trilogy, but the fans clamored for him so much. I think that's why
Hmm.
he stuck him in
Yeah.
the prequels. But anyway, that's a whole side thing. But no, you're right. He's self-aware about the Plo Koon obsession, and he's absolutely right. Like that was a great red herring because if we had found out about Plo Koon, I could see fans just jumping on that and being like, "Yeah, this is real. This is a thing." But then they start thinking, "How could Plo Koon survive? What happened to him in Revenge of the Sith?"
Yeah, pretty clearly he died.
He parachuted out while he's on
Although
fire.
he's like, what is it? It's like what is it? It's Mace, right? He like
Yeah.
jumps out of the dropship with his cloak on fire, and he just kind of like shrugs it
Right,
off. That's
right.
that's what Coon's gonna do.
So it is funny though that these things kind of work out with the red herrings, and yeah, I don't know. I'm so glad also they went to Mark Hamill early on because if they had come to him later, or maybe like knowing the way things go these days, they might. I mean, I would think they would ask him no matter what. But like, if this was another company, if this was like Paramount, uh, I feel like with Star Trek, I feel like there's other companies that wouldn't go to one of the classic actors. They would just be like, forget it, just let's do our own thing. But thankfully, they went to Mark and got his. Well, first they just said they brought him in to look at the Mandalorian. They were just showing him concept art and
Hmm.
different things relating, and then of course they had him voice EV-99 in the cantina, and
Well, I think the difference is when you have somebody in charge of the project that's a fan versus
yes.
someone that's just, maybe they like it, and and then they
Well,
kind
there's
of
like
take over.
bandwagon likers. Like
Yeah.
I consider Kathy Kennedy, she likes Star Wars in a bandwagon way. She's not going on forums and dissecting like what fucking, lightsaber colors such and such has in
Right.
this comic book versus whatever. And that's what makes Filoni a real fan. He's the one that dressed up as Plo fucking Koon at the Revenge of the Sith premiere and wore the fucking paper mache mask,
Right.
and walked around. So yeah, and Favreau, I mean, obviously he's got his hands in so many universes, but he grew up with it. He appreciated it. He played with the toys.
Well, and
He's
even at the beginning of the episode, he talks about the responsibility that
mhm.
someone in charge of a Star Wars project or any sort of story has with the property and its
Yeah.
relationship with the fans and the fan expectations and all that stuff. So,
I almost feel like I could see, not that we do it with our channel and our podcast, but if we were, let's say, more of the sequel hating dark side, like let's take advantage of that algorithm. I could see people cherry picking some of Favreau's quotes in this episode and using that as like proof of him throwing shade on like Kathy Kennedy and other like that faction at Disney.
Um,
So
yeah, if you want to think of it in terms of factions, I mean, he mentions Kathy by name as far
yes,
as like allowing them to do what they want to do and stuff, and this stewardship they have over this corner of the Star Wars story.
yeah,
Um, I mean, personally, I think he's throwing shade, at least at the sequels, not necessarily anybody in particular, but just how the sequels were handled
right.
overall, without
Yeah,
placing blame and responsibility on any one
and
particular
yeah,
person.
he didn't say anything negative per se, but it's that kind of thing people could cherry pick, like certain lines and quotes, and then like present it in another Frankenstein kind of way, and see, see, I told you there's this faction, and all that stuff. But yeah, what's obvious though is that Filoni and Favreau, the fans, I think overall tend to gravitate towards them as being the only real shining light in the Disney era right now.
Yes.
So I think that's safe to say.
Yes.
Oh, one
Wait,
other
you don't
thing.
like the High Republic? What's the matter with
I'll
the High
know
Republic?
I'll know it when I get to it. As soon as I'm interested in rocks that fly ships and other such strange things. But
Uh-huh.
well, there was another thing. I figured you might mention it, but do you remember the thing that Mark Hamill said about Luke's further adventures, like
Yes.
between the trilogies?
Yes.
There was a key phrase he used that was awesome.
Oh, what did he say?
Well, he mentioned the Jedi Academy, but what's funny is okay, because that
Oh,
term,
yes,
like
yes.
no
He,
one uses. Okay, no one in the current Disney continuity, really, or canon, new canon, no one uses that term. It's pretty much exclusively in reference to Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Praxium or
yes.
Academy trilogy from 1994.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I don't think Mark Hamill was I don't think he knows of those books. He was just throwing that phrase out because it fits the terminology of what Luke had. He has a school. It's a Jedi Academy, and I think that was what he was kind of saying. But it's just so funny to hear Mark Hamill say that phrase for us as book fans. We've talked about that trilogy off and on so many times, so it's just kind of funny to hear Mark say it. It gave me a smile, a genuine smile as I watched it. So
Yeah, I don't, he might know of it.
he might actually
Not that
because
he
yeah,
sat down and read the books, but I would almost say that he might have taken the time. Anything that was adapted to comic books, he might have partaken in. Because it's
yeah,
easily digestible. You
but
know,
those weren't adapted to comic books.
weren't they?
No, you're thinking of the Thrawn trilogy.
Well, I looked it up. There's a from
There
Dark
was a Jedi
Horse.
Academy
Well, not
Leviathan
okay.
comic,
Right. Not a direct like.
not a direct adaptation of that trilogy by
Right.
Kevin J. Anderson, but Kevin J. Anderson did co-write Jedi Academy Leviathan, which was
Yes.
a I think 4 issue miniseries which takes place, I believe, after Dark Saber.
Yeah.
So technically, sorta, there was a Jedi Academy comic
And
that
he might
it
have.
had Dorsk 82 and Kip and some of those
Right.
characters. No, you're
But
right. He might have
I would. Well, and he did voice that commercial for Vector Prime
he did.
back when the
That's
New Jedi Order
Are,
started.
are you
So
insinuating that Mark Hamill like researched the entirety of 90s EU in preparation for that Vector Prime commercial?
well, maybe,
You never. Hey, times were tough. He was doing Wing Commander CD-ROMs, and well, of course had Batman the animated series, but then he was also doing a character on. I think it was. I want to say it was the Tick, that cartoon. I don't know. He had a lot of things going on in the 90s for
well,
sure.
look at it this way. Shatner knows way more about Kirk than you would expect
Oh
an
yeah.
actor to
Well,
know
he
about their
wrote, didn't
character.
he write a couple Star Trek
Yeah, I think so. I think
novels?
he co-wrote or wrote some stories or whatever. But
Because he had the one where Kirk comes back as the mirror universe
yeah,
Kirk,
yeah.
the
Um,
Tiberius.
so
Anyway,
if Shatner as an actor has this sort of interest and love for for his
get a
character,
life. Yeah,
yeah, I could see Mark. Mark
get a
cares.
life,
Mark
people.
cares about Luke as much as Shatner cares
Oh, he
about Kirk.
does.
So
He does.
he may not be sitting there, reading through all the Legends books at some point before they were Legends,
Hmm.
but I could see him digesting old EU stuff in comic form.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what would be interesting? Not that I think it ever happened, but
or
would
hell,
be
he could
it.
sit there and sit on Wikipedia just like I do, 2:30 in the morning. You
That
know,
could be the case, or someone could slip him a copy of the Essential Chronology, and he
there you
could just
go.
digest it in one sitting. Um, but yeah, it is interesting to think of these things. So you're right; they did use a three process thing because there was the thing they called the egg that
Yes.
Mark would sit in, and that would capture lighting from different angles and different lighting effects, or even flame effects. If they had explosions on an actor's face and they want to capture that look,
Yeah.
and then there was that guy they literally locked away in a room where he could only be visited by certain people
Yeah.
to keep the secret, and he was feeding all the images from thousands of things, not just the Star Wars movies, but B-roll footage, documentaries,
Mm-hmm.
everything. It's kind of crazy. So I feel like that was almost the deep fake side of it, in that they had a database of so
Yeah.
much. But of course, what they talked about was how Mark's face, it just the way it's lit and the way the angles are between each movie and the original trilogy, it changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that not that long ago with,
Yeah.
pre and post accident, car accident Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting how they still needed more and more data on top of what you think would be enough, you know?
Yeah,
So
I think that's part of it. He seems more gaunt in some scenes of
yeah,
Return of the Jedi, and I think it's lighting.
Jabba's palace.
Jabba's palace especially.
Yep.
So I think it it comes down to, I mean, Filoni and I think Favreau to talk about the expectation of what different people think Luke should look like, depending
Hmm.
on what scenes stick out in their head.
Yeah.
They're going against that, so
Right, right,
it's an uphill battle when you got an actor who, over the course of three movies, their look changed a lot based
right,
on all sorts of different factors, lighting and
right.
accidents and whatever.
Very true. Um, I don't think there's anything else I need to cover on the Disney Gallery episode. How about you?
Uh, I was surprised that, I mean, I'm not surprised only so far in that I didn't really think about how they did it, but they used that voice synthesizer
Oh
tech
yes,
for his
dude.
voice.
Okay, when I first saw the episode last December or whatever, I was just figuring that they got Mark Hamill to record it, and then they used,
A lot of
basically a
tea and a
studio.
lot of honey.
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? But it's so easy to tweak things in studios now with, they got the variations of Pro Tools and all this stuff. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was it. I didn't know they just fed it into a computer, the lines of dialogue, and then it literally synthesized those words from basically scratch based on the data it had.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't, I mean, there was something kind of off about it. It wasn't crisp sounding. It wasn't like superly. It wasn't there was something slightly muffled about it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I chalked that up. I chalked that up to them just tweaking Mark's, now voice.
Yeah.
But okay, once I found that out, I was actually kind of amazed because it did sound like Mark in Return of the Jedi. Like pretty close. Not 100%, but I'll say 97%, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if Mark could do it. If he could do the voice, you
Well, I'll
know?
tell you what, there was an episode of Forces of Destiny, those little mini cartoons
Mm-hmm.
from a few years ago. Mark voiced Luke in a scene of him training with Yoda on Dagobah, and he did a fairly good job of sounding like Empire era Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they tweaked him a little bit there, but it was definitely Mark. And I was like, okay. So they went ahead and did that. It wasn't like it didn't sound as awkward as when Freddie Prinze Jr. did young Padawan Kanan
Right.
on the Bad Batch, which sounded terrible
Yeah.
as an idea that should have just been recast as a kid,
Yeah.
you know? But anyway, so it can be done, but it makes me wonder in the future if they're going to feature Luke again with Grogu or something in a future season, what they're going to do with this. Are they going to keep doing CG deepfake Luke and have more movement, more action, like have it be an actual thing, or is it just going to be this like one-off, you know?
Oh, they just got to time it to whenever Sebastian Stan is free, and just
Or is
cast him
that the
as young
guy?
Luke. Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what's his face from Captain America: Winter Soldier.
okay? I thought they said the guy's name was
Oh
Max
no
or
no no no
something.
no! That's not the guy. That's not the guy. That's Sebastian Stan is the
That's the one everyone wants to play young Luke.
yeah. They've done like mock-ups of him with like
But he
blonde
looks a
hair.
lot like this Max guy that actually was the stand-in.
Yeah, I would say he
From
looks
what
more
I,
like young Mark
mhm,
than Max
yeah,
does, but Max looks pretty close too.
he does look pretty close from the pictures I've
Yeah.
seen. So
So
yeah, I'd be okay with that. I think he's a great
yeah,
actor.
that's
So
fine. What else is Max doing? I don't know. He could do it again.
right, yeah, yeah, very interesting. So yeah, anything else on that?
No, other than it looked like the deep faked R2 too, because he was green. Did you notice that? I think they do it for the
Yes,
effect stuff,
I
but
well, I was even thinking maybe a security thing too for the like not wanting to
oh, I
leak
didn't
out.
think of that. I didn't think of that.
Because then it's like, okay, they could just say this is some other Jedi or
I
whatever.
I would have
And then
thought,
green was the color of Whistler. So then they could think, oh, maybe fans will think it's Whistler with
oh, that's
corn or
probably what
something.
it is, or something. Because
But then also it could be just it could capture the effects better. Who
yeah,
knows?
I thought it was just an effects thing because it always stands out to me in A New Hope when R2's like black
Yep,
on the
yep,
in the trench run.
yep.
So
All those space shots,
yeah,
which weren't fixed until they weren't even fixed in the special edition. It wasn't until the 2004 Blu-rays, or not, sorry, not the Blu-rays, the DVDs before
yeah,
they changed R2 to blue.
right,
Because I remember seeing the special edition in the theater, thinking, "Oh, dude, R2's still black. Are you kidding me?" But as a
yeah,
kid, you don't notice it because it's just space, and
yeah. It's whatever.
you don't pick up on it. But yeah, as an adult, it's like R2's fucking black. What the hell?
Um, yeah. So I don't know. I wish they had talked about that. Like if that was like a
Yeah,
misdirect thing. It probably was a misdirect thing actually,
I think it could have been. It's
because
possible.
they could have had Max like somewhere else, but then the droids like sitting there on set. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
interesting.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's
that's it.
Whistler in disguise.
That's it.
So, right on. Okay.
All right, let's talk about Visions now, and all 9 episodes. What'd you
Yeah.
think?
Well, as someone who grew up enjoying a lot of anime and also samurai movies, Kurosawa movies, well, which I saw in my 20s, but this is right up.
2020s is the new teens.
Yeah, I know, right? It might as well be our teens for how long ago it was.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, this is like right up my alley, and I honestly wasn't sure what to make of it at first. And we kind of did a review of the trailer, and we talked about the tie-in Ronin book a month or two ago on the podcast, and I think obviously I had some issues with they were using too many Earth terms, and it was a little too on the nose as far as feeling like medieval Japan and
Hmm.
not Star Wars per se. But I gotta say, I was completely sold once I actually watched this. And even though there was still segments that didn't quite feel like Star Wars, it did feel very Earth-like. I still feel like 90% of this was absolutely Star Wars at its most core you can possibly get, as far as like visual action and the spiritual side of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes. I am not a huge anime fan, um, but I would say that although there were episodes that didn't really click with me, um, I have zero negative things to say about it, and primarily because, and I think some people have kind of poo-pooed it. Um,
Have they? Yeah, I
uh,
figured.
I don't think overly. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
people find all sorts of, you know, they'll shit on anything these days, but
Yes. Yes.
um, I appreciated every one, even if they didn't click with me, even if the animation style wasn't my cup of tea, because
Hmm.
each one I could see being a an individual love letter
Yeah.
to Star Wars,
Yes.
in a style that the creators wanted to use, and
Yeah.
you could see the love come through in each episode, because each episode would have like, you could pick out things that, okay, these people liked this aspect of Star Wars, or they had this,
Hmm.
maybe this inside joke about a detail of Star Wars that came through in the episode. So um, I thought they were all great.
Yeah.
Some I liked better than others for
Yeah.
you know, different reasons.
I completely agree with what you just said. The individual aspect of each segment of this, and actually, this is almost a microcosm for the expanded universe in general. Because what we love about the expanded universe is that it gives fans a voice to create within that sandbox,
Hmm.
whether good or not. It doesn't matter. There's so much. The well is so deep. You, if you love Star Wars, you're going to find lots of things to see and experience, and this anthology was perfect for that. And also that it's each one only runs, I think, 13 to 16 minutes long on average, so they're very bite sized. You don't have to binge this whole, if you add it all up, I think it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, so it's like feature length. But you could literally jump into any one of these, and what I noticed is that each there was at least three or four where I was amazed at how invested I got in these characters very
Hmm.
quickly.
Hmm.
There was actually two or three of these that were so masterfully made and animated and written. I almost wonder if there's somebody's thinking that these could be backdoor pilots
I
for
got that
future
feeling
things.
too. I got that feeling too
Yeah,
on a
because
couple.
yeah,
But
and we'll go.
let's get
Yeah,
into it. Let's just go one by one
right.
and talk about
We'll
each
do this.
episode.
So episode one is called The Duel. And what I noticed, this is mostly film or film. I say film because it was so lifelike in the animation. It was almost rotoscoped,
Hmm.
like the old Disney,
Yeah.
like Sleeping Beauty. It was very much like that. But it was kind of a film grain, black and white mostly, other than when characters pull out a lightsaber or there's blasters. And it's very much like Seven Samurai. And I think obviously directly inspired because there's a scene of a village, being overtaken by mercenaries, and there's wind blowing leaves through, and that's like a direct Seven Samurai like shot and everything.
Well, see,
Um,
I got the sense it was more the Magnificent Seven.
well, of course, the
That's a joke.
Magnificent Seven. Yeah,
That's a joke.
right.
Yeah, that's a
That went
joke.
over my head, but yes, okay, you're going for the long turnaround joke. Um, Well, and then even like Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood was based also on
Yeah.
like Sanjuro, which had um what's his name, who Lucas almost wanted for the role of Obi-Wan. Um but anyway, yeah, there was a couple movies that Kurosawa had made, Sanjuro, and then I think Yojimbo was another one. And this story was like just cherry picked straight from that, which is fine, like Star Wars. Look, The Mandalorian did it at least two times, if not three times, in its two
Yeah.
seasons. And I noticed that whenever the characters were fighting in this, because there's like these like I don't know if they're really stormtroopers, they're just kind of mercenaries that have hybrid, armor and everything. But the movement was really realistic and weighted. Like everything felt like it had inertia,
Hmm.
like it was really there and filmed. And that style was just cool. Um, I thought there's that dark side character, the female, and she pulls out that lightsaber that has that rotoscope like spread open flowering like bladed thing
Yeah, it
that,
looked like a an umbrella.
yeah, almost like an umbrella. I That was almost over the top. I felt it's like, oh, here's the new like lightsaber. We gotta outdo the double bladed, and we gotta outdo General Grievous. But there was a cool kill with it where it folded down into one and then like speared that Trandoshan and then it opened up
Right,
again.
right.
And that was kind of cool. I was surprised at some of the violence, but then again, I guess they were going for the authentic anime feel. So,
Well, it
you
just
know,
depends. I mean, it's several different studios, and they're all gonna, have
yes.
their own take.
I wonder though, like I wonder if there was discussions at Disney, like, well, this is Disney Plus and it's kind of aimed at families. You know what? There was probably even a text warning at the beginning in small print that I didn't notice, but
Probably. I mean, kids got to suck it up. The
yeah,
stuff that we
that's
watched.
right.
I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why we're as messed up as we are.
I know
Um,
it's it's funny because we were kids. We had to watch Optimus Prime die, which was
yeah,
that was pretty dark.
yeah.
And my this is just an aside, but in reference to that stuff, my sister-in-law asked us like, do you think my nephew Max, do you
Mhm.
think he's ready for Robot Chicken? And the first thing I thought of, I was like, I don't know, is he ready to watch Optimus Prime die of prostate cancer? Like,
Yeah.
so I
Oh
mean,
boy.
we had, obviously in the Transformers movie, he didn't die of prostate cancer, but
Right. That we know of.
sometimes, I mean, I had to watch Watership Down as a kid.
That's pretty.
That's
That's a sad movie
that
in a
is
lot of. Yeah.
formative. So
Yeah,
kids
yeah, and
kids need to watch this.
it's all important. And of course, I remember seeing Bambi in the theater, and then when Bambi's mom is shot, it's like super shocking. And
Yeah.
no, it is important. This is good for kids. And I remember when I was like 9 or 10, um, that's when I got my bloodlust phase, and that's when you start really like enjoying, more adult-oriented action movies and horror and gore and all
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah, yeah.
no,
Kids
this would
need
be
kids need
perfect.
this stuff. But you're
Yeah,
right. I do wonder too if maybe there was
yeah, some
any sort of
discussions.
discussion at Disney because it ain't Walt in charge anymore. So,
That's right. Um,
but I thought it
I
was
think,
pretty. I thought it was pretty good this
yeah,
episode. I
yeah.
like the art style,
I
and
think it sold me on the Visions idea right out of the gate.
that's
But
probably why
it's
they chose
funny.
it as the first one.
It could be, but what's funny is when I go down the list and then refer back to things, that was not even near my favorite.
Yeah.
So, I think I've said everything about that one. Did you have anything else?
No, you pretty much
Okay.
mirrored my response to it.
Okay, we'll go right down. And then next we got episode 2, which is Tatooine Rhapsody. Um, I guess when viewed later, once you see it, you're like, oh, they're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody, I guess. Uh, what do you think of this one?
Um, I liked the sort of kid cartoony art style,
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the small bodies with the exaggerated heads.
It reminded me of Full Metal Alchemist, which is a anime series that gets really cartoony and zany with the exaggerated smiles and like the big eyes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's different, but I liked this on that.
Um, I, obviously as well, they had Timora as Boba Fett, which was instantly recognizable, which I liked.
You
Um,
know what? I didn't notice that
really?
because I didn't, and I think they might have processed his voice a little differently. Now, when I think back, now I can kind of see it in my mind's eye, and I'm like, okay, no, you're right, that was Tamora. But I think, yeah, you're right. There was something they changed the maybe because it was younger Boba, they might have changed the pitch ever so slightly. But
Maybe. I don't know.
okay,
But
all right.
um, the
It was like it
the
was
rest of the cast,
super deformed Boba. He was
right?
like cutesy.
Um, the rest of the cast, the English cast, they had okay. So for the first episode, this is what I noticed. Some episodes had recognizable actors and actresses. doing voice
I
work.
wondered if they did, but I didn't look
Other
at the
Oh, you
list.
didn't. Okay,
I
so
did not. I went in just like totally blind on this.
there's so some episodes used recognizable actors, others did not. Um, okay, so the first one, the duel,
Hmm.
they had Brian T as Ronan, who
I don't know who that is.
he's in some stuff. He's not a big name actor, but
Okay. Okay.
and then they had Lucy Liu as
Oh.
the bandit leader,
Okay. Okay.
and then the village chief was someone Jaden Waldman, who I don't
Okay.
recognize that name, but and then for Tatooine Rhapsody, it was actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jay.
Really?
Yeah, which I was
Wow.
surprised because
Wow.
I didn't recognize. I mean, not that uh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a super recognizable voice, but
Yeah.
he was the voice of Jay, and then
That's cool.
Bobby Moynihan was Geezer.
I could hear that now that you mention.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the big hut dude?
Yes.
Which doesn't look like a hut
I
quite.
didn't get that at
Because
first.
the eyes are
Yeah.
different, but then he even I think Boba even says something. He says some reference to him being a hut.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And but I thought, okay, why are his eyes? Why do they look like that? But then I just my head canon was just like it's just some
It's just the
genetic
style. It's just this. Yeah.
offshoot.
It's because he's
Yeah.
wearing those glasses.
Right,
So
right.
that's
So
yeah.
yeah.
And then
Okay, Bobby Moynihan. I could hear
Shelby
that.
Young as K344.
Yeah.
Who that's someone I don't recognize the
Yeah.
name.
I loved even though again this was the first example I could think of in the anthology. I was like sold on this weird world because the characters were so distinctive and so lively
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know, there was something about it. It was just perfect and you really feel for him and while I'm not crazy about the super deformed cutesy look, I felt like with this particular story it worked and
There
of
was
course
just something about seeing Boba Fett in that style that
yeah,
really worked for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I know. And you know, the scene where he's like using his jetpack and he's got his little targeting thing come down off his mask, and
Uh
he's
huh.
like, "Yeah, I don't know. It just worked." And I like that there was little Easter eggs around Tatooine. You see, like the Cantina band guys looking at the hollow on
Mm-hmm.
the table as they're performing at the pod race arena, and
It was
I like
nice to
that.
see the arena
Yeah,
again.
because we don't see it very often.
Yeah.
Um, it's very rare.
Any
Uh,
reference to pod racing after the fact is
yep,
always neat to me because
it
it's
is.
so big on Tatooine, and like you see it in the Phantom Menace and then you kind of never see it again.
Yeah, and
Um,
of course, in the old, I think it was the Wizards of the Coast role playing lore, it was kind of, well, they had to explain why it wasn't big during A New Hope. So it was kind of like pod racing got super illegal and like was cracked down on by the Empire. And then, of course, I remember fans having theories it's because like Vader, you know, was cracking down on it and trying to destroy all pod racing throughout the
he
galaxy. And
wanted to be the last Boonta Eve champion. You know,
right, right.
there can be
Um,
only one.
So Tatooine Rhapsody, I'd say this is great. Unique characters with immense personality in a very short amount of time. Um, I think
I
that's
would
something.
like to see. This is something I could see more of.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it reminded me, this one in particular, but all of these in general, reminded me a lot of the Star Wars Tales anthology comic that we used to get back in the 2000s,
Yes.
which was under Dark Horse. And that was all, not everything was non-canon. I think later they'd incorporated continuity or certain comic strips were incorporated into the larger Legends continuity, but some were definitely non-continuity
Mm-hmm.
and well what infinities that was like
Yes.
infinities back in the day. Um this is very much like that. It's everyone contributing a very unique story and art style, all that stuff. And then we got episode 3, The Twins. This one was very interesting. It it almost ran the risk of not feeling like Star Wars at times. I'll tell you why. For one thing, okay, there's these twins. They're both in the Empire. They both seem to have force powers, almost like they're Inquisitors
Mm-hmm.
or something. And they have this Gemini class Imperial Star Destroyer,
Hmm.
which is conjoined on either side with a hyper cannon in the middle,
Yes.
which seems to use dark energy or hyperspace energy or something to shoot
Well, he uses
into a
that
stance.
kyber, that kyber crystal, and then it like
Yeah, that
routes
kyber.
through the twins to power the laser.
Yeah, this is like someone took Alan Dean Foster's novelization notes from The Force Awakens and then made a like cartoon around it
Well,
with the Starkiller
I
base.
almost feel like it's a prototype for Starkiller base,
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah,
or the Starkiller
yeah,
weapon, I should say, not the base
right.
itself.
And so they have this stuff also called dark armor, which
Hmm.
seems to use this energy through this kyber thing, which adheres to them in this interlocking mechanism, which makes them even look more like almost like Sith Lords or Inquisitors. And I really like the design of the female twins faceplate, which is on like the main poster for Star Wars Visions, the imagery.
Yeah.
It looks cool, but the aspect I was going to say that made it not feel like Star Wars, but similar was the soundtrack was orchestral, but it reminded me of Star Wars knockoff movies from the 70s and 80s that were trying to sound like Star Wars
Yeah.
musically. And what it reminded me of, because it had a retro feel, it reminded me of the Black Hole for some reason. Something about the music on this. Maybe it's Disney going full circle, I guess. um, but there was a lot of, so as the episode goes on, these twins end up fighting each other, and the brother, like, he's trying to sabotage things, or they have this huge giant Naruto Dragon Ball Z style anime battle with
Hmm.
him riding an X-wing with no atmosphere and no one needs breathing apparatus, and it's almost like over the top,
Yes.
but I guess that's anime for you.
That's what they were going for. This
That's what
is
they're
one of the
going for.
ones that didn't click with me, but I appreciated what
Yeah,
they were. I
yeah,
appreciated it. I like the art style. It was
yeah,
interesting. I don't know. I couldn't watch like a movie or a whole series
yeah.
in this
I
style,
liked
but
I liked the beginning of this one, but as it went on, it got a little too ridiculous. And when I say Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, and that's exactly why I don't like those anime things that have the giant floating battles with energy balls being thrown, and it gets so insane. I tend to like my anime being realistic with
hmm,
in-universe kind of logic.
yeah,
But anyway, that's the twins.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, the twins in the English version, voiced by Neil Patrick Harris and Alison Brie.
okay,
This was another one where
okay,
they used known actors for the
interesting.
voices.
It's going to be fun for me to go back and see these again, knowing this now.
Yeah.
Um, okay, very cool. I'm glad that you were able to pick up on that side of the notes because I didn't have that. But and then we got episode 4, The Village Bride. Um, and it's funny, even though each of these is non-canon, I was still my head canon is always ticking. I'm trying to figure out when does this take place? Is this post Revenge of the Sith? Is this post
Well,
sequel?
if you, I will say that they do have notes on that
Oh, do
on
they?
Wikipedia and elsewhere. So, like
Good.
this one in particular is a few years after the Great Jedi Purge.
That's exactly what I was thinking because I
Yeah,
think one of the characters says some Jedi are still alive.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, this is a planet with people living in a village, and they have a very close connection to nature. And they almost seem to they keep
Magina, right? That's what
yeah
they call the Force.
they kept referring it to the Magina, and
Which I really like because it's almost like I like that in the old EU when like Luke or whoever would encounter different cultures that would use or interact or know about the Force, but they called it
mhm,
something else. It was in their
the
own
white
thing.
current.
Yeah, the white current. Yeah, that's the first thing that pops into my head from the Black Fleet
Right, right.
Crisis. But
Yep, yep. Yeah, I was thinking of that too. That was kind of a trope from the old EU because, yeah, sometimes there'd be lost cultures that aren't connected to the larger society, or they didn't know about the Jedi and then they had their own Force religion or their own
hmm,
customs. The plot of this one was kind of convoluted. I found myself confused a lot of the times. Some of these didn't quite come together until maybe near the end, and then they would require a rewatch. I was a little bit confused during some of the stuff here, but basically there's seems to be separatist holdouts, because obviously if this is post Revenge of the Sith, the separatists are more or less gone by then, but I guess there was still holdouts here and there, and they're pillaging the planet.
Well, they're not
And
holdouts. It's just like bandits or whatever that got a hold of old separatist battle
separatist
droids
stuff.
that were left on the
Okay.
planet because the separatists had taken over that planet, and then
Oh,
when
got it. they
left when the Confederacy fell.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
and
I
then these
noticed that.
bandits took over those droids.
Okay, okay. I was wondering about that. And then there was that freighter that is landed, and it reminded me a lot of the Ebon Hawk from Knights of the Old Republic. It had a very
Hmm.
similar design. I don't know if that was intentional or just circumstantial. Um, yeah, so I don't know. This one was kind of cool. It wasn't. I didn't really have much of an opinion on it. I appreciated the animation style on this. Had some cool scenes. The battle scene near the end was probably my favorite part, with the battle droids and that one older Jedi character looking down on the mountain. Um, and then there was a cool ship that took off near the end. It almost seemed like a hybrid between an X-wing and an A-wing. It was
Yeah.
like had like an A-wing cockpit, but with X-wing wings.
Well, to me,
And
it looked like a like an updated Jedi fighter,
yeah, yeah, I could
like
see
from
that.
Attack of the Clones,
I feel like the
but
sequel
with
trilogy
wings.
needed more of that, and less just here's X-wings again. But anyway, we don't need to get on a whole sequel hating
Right, right.
tangent again.
Yeah, this one I appreciated. It wasn't like it didn't blow my socks off, but
Yeah,
it was good. I like the references to prequel stuff like
yeah,
separatists and the
yeah.
droids, and Matt Woods was back as
Yes,
the droids, the battle droids.
absolutely.
So it was good. No one
Yeah.
else big. This one didn't have a lot of big name actors.
Okay.
It had known
Okay.
actors, actors that have at
Yeah.
least in the English side of things,
Right.
that are notable for different reasons, but no like triple A
Right.
actors.
Right.
So
And then we come to episode 5, the Ninth Jedi. Um, I will say that of all the episodes,
this
bar
was my
none,
favorite.
this is the best by far.
Yes.
And
I'm
there's
glad
multiple.
you agree with me because I didn't know
Oh
which one
my,
would be your favorite, but this was my favorite episode.
oh my God, this was so fucking good. Um, it seems to be set hundreds of years in the future, post sequel trilogy. And as soon as I was watching it, and I was thinking, Jason's gonna love that, because you're always saying like they need to go forward in the timeline
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
give us something where we don't know what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a similar conflict in the Jedi at large between Jedi and Sith, there was still a minimal number of Jedi, only a handful. And anyway, I this one had a twist, and I don't know if I want to quite say what it is in case someone hasn't seen it, or we could just give a spoiler warning. But
I don't think we need to really say what it is.
yeah,
Only I will only say that a lot of times things are telegraphed,
yeah,
and sometimes things are telegraphed. Sometimes things almost seem like the obvious twist is coming, and then like sometimes you don't know there's going to be a twist. Other times
yeah,
you're like, okay, this is the twist, and
yes,
you get that. And then sometimes like this, you're like, okay, that's the twist. It's like, oh wait, no, actually that's not the twist. This is the twist.
right. This was a amazing story in that it was very obviously metaphorical in a lot of ways, like light and dark and all that. But it's amazing because you start out, you meet these characters right away. It's written so well and depicted so well. You feel for everybody, but you think certain characters are on this one side, and you think other characters are on this the dark side. And it's amazing that when the flip seems to happen, you the whole thing is turned upside down. And of course that's like my favorite kind of thing after watching Lost and all this other stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
love having my my preconceptions just totally turned upside down. But not only that, the animation on this one in particular was just really crisp and detailed and good, and it still felt like Star Wars. And it had you could check off like each box on everything this had. It had a chase. It had like like the speeder chase over the
Mm-hmm.
forest and the ice. It had lightsaber stuff. It had starship things. It had humor. Uh,
I love the
you know,
droid, the pilot droid,
oh man, that
sipping his
pilot
tea.
droid. He was all like super slow, like an old man,
Uh
and
huh.
like I'll get right on it, and then he like slowly walks to the ship. And dude, this one, they need. I'm going to be pissed if they don't turn this into a series.
Well, and that's
That
the thing. This is one of them. So there's a couple others. Um, I would say Tatooine Rhapsody could be a setup.
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
that could support some sort of series, maybe a comic series, not necessarily an
Hmm.
animated series, but that it could set up a series. This is another one. This is the one I would want to set
Yeah,
up a series,
absolutely.
because it leaves at a cliffhanger with the
Which
girl's
I think
father.
they did on purpose.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another one too. There's a couple others that are really great, but there's another one I would like to see
Yes.
as we go down the list here. But this was just I can't even say enough good things about it. To have all this happen in like 13 minutes, I felt like when this one ended, so much had happened and so much had just just gobsmacked me. I felt like I had watched an hour-long episode of a series or a movie
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had the lightsaber smith and his custom lightsabers, and it automatically reminded me. Well, there was that one where the blade could change length.
Uh huh.
I was like, oh, it's Gantoris
Right.
from Dark Apprentice because he had that ability with his blade. He could extend it. And that made me think of that. There was other little nods to things that I don't think were Easter eggs to the EU, but they were things that writers are going to write about, extrapolating what they know from Star Wars. And God, it was perfectly balanced with new droids, action. Like I said, and then to have a twist also, just yeah,
It
I'm
was
gonna
the
have to.
best of the bunch.
It was absolutely the best. If we were giving number ratings or letter ratings to these, this is an A plus, or at least an A. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know if it could be really improved, but it was amazing. I don't have much else to say about it, really.
Not without spoiling it completely.
Not without
So,
spoiling it, but we're not going to do that. So maybe in a future episode we could maybe pull some more from this and talk about it again. But boy, that one they just knocked it out of the park. That was a grand slam.
all right, all right, all right. Episode 6.
TOB one.
TOB1. Yes.
I wonder if this was an Obi-Wan reference here. Um, this one reminded me of Mega Man because
What, how could it possibly remind you of Mega Man?
yeah, Dr. Mitaka, um, he looked like the guy that created Mega Man.
Yes. What
But I
was
think
his
it was
name in
also
that? What was the scientist's
I
name in Mega
can't.
Man?
I just remember Dr. Wily being the evil one and the
Yeah,
good one, whoever.
right.
But it also seemed to be inspired by classic anime like Astro Boy,
Yes.
who is a robot boy, and then even this planet, which kind of looks like Tatooine because there's desert and there's two suns, but I don't know because it's anime. It almost reminded me of old Nickelodeon anime, like The Little Prince,
Yes,
and
yeah. That
even the
because that was
little
a
koala.
French, wasn't?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, the French production anime, and there was the little koala, and it's these certain cutesy kind of designs and the sounds, the
uh-huh.
little squeaking like when they
Uh-huh.
walk around or whatever. So this one is a little bit silly. It's a little bit fluid and cartoony, although amazingly, even within that, there is a logical consistency to things.
Right.
And even near the end, I mean, this was almost like all the '80s anime I could think of rolled into one. There was almost like a Voltron battle when the robot becomes a quote unquote Jedi, and then he takes on this Inquisitor, and the way he destroys him, it felt like Voltron taking down a road beast at
Uh-huh.
the end of an episode.
Well, that's
Yeah,
this one felt like a love letter to like all sorts of things, not just Star Wars. It's almost like
right.
Star Wars was the vehicle to be a love letter to like classic
Mega Man.
old school anime and
Yep.
NES stuff and all that. So,
Yeah,
um,
very true.
this I didn't think when I started watching it, I didn't think I would like it as much as I ended up liking it because
Me
of the
too.
art
Me
style.
too.
Because the art
Me
style
too.
didn't really click with me, but
But I
overall, I
did
liked
like
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a while to sell on me, but it was good. Um, I
And
don't have much.
Kyle Chandler was the voice of was he Professor or Doctor? Oh, Professor Mitaka.
Okay, okay.
That's he was most famously and recently in the Godzilla movies as
Oh, okay.
Millie Bobby Brown's
Oh, right,
father. Yeah,
right, right. I remember that guy now. I've seen him in a few things.
yeah.
Um, I don't have much else to say about TOB1. It was good.
I
It
think
was a
TOB1 is a reference to like to be or not to be. I think
yes. Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I'm not sure.
That, that could very well be. Um, and then we have episode 7, The Elder.
Second favorite episode,
My second
easily.
favorite as well. This one had great dialogue where a lot of character is revealed in very few lines. You're mostly dealing with a Jedi Master and a Padawan here. The animation was very crisp, um, very, very detailed though, even though, not dealing with a lot of technical things, mostly a planet and a few characters, but the story was great. The characters were full of depth. You feel for them after just 10 minutes or
Mm-hmm.
less. Um, After very short interactions. And then there seemed to be basically they land on this planet, they meet some locals, and then there seems to be some dark warrior that they're tracking down. And this almost seemed to be like a connection as to how the Jedi discovered that the Sith may still be alive. Between,
Yes,
you know,
because in the notes they mention it's centuries
ah,
after Darth Bane and the
I was even
initial
thinking this
extinction of the Sith.
this could be like a few hundred years before the Phantom Menace. So I felt like this one was also great. The Elder, the dark side old man or suspected Sith at the end, absolutely is creepy as hell,
Yes.
um, and deadly as all fuck. And it's funny, like when he first struck at the Padawan character, who you kind of think dies at first because he
Mm-hmm.
just falls over. I don't know what happened with that. They didn't really explain how he tricked or survived that. I don't know
I
because
think it was just a flesh wound. I
he
mean,
seemed
obviously,
absolutely fine after the end. I don't know, but
well, get the
but
droid to stitch him up and some
oh,
Bacta, and he's good to go.
I guess so. But I gotta say, when I thought he died, I found myself reacting again. This is 10 minutes into like a 15-minute episode. I reacted like I had been watching this character for like months in a series or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, like I cared about this character more than I did, sadly, like the death of like Leia in Rise of Skywalker. You
Yes.
know, there could be various reasons for that. Maybe because we've been mourning Carrie a few years leading up to it, but still, it's amazing you care for these characters in short periods of time.
It's how I think it really comes down to how it's handled, how the death is
Yeah,
handled, and
yeah, absolutely.
this was handled really well. Of course, he didn't end up dying, but
Yeah,
they did a good job of like establishing that emotional weight. Um,
absolutely. I would love to see this as a continuing adventures. Who did voices on this one?
oh, that's funny that you should ask because this one uh, with Tajin, there was something about his voice. It seemed really familiar.
That's what I
Um,
was thinking too. Like there's some his cadence was just racking my brain.
yeah.
Like I know this.
So Tajin was actually David Harbour, which and that's what made me look up all the voice actors was this
Yeah,
episode.
the name doesn't ring a bell,
Okay, well
but
it's what's his face from Stranger Things, the cop, the
oh,
sheriff, and
oh, dude.
yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
But that's the thing.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't quite sound like David Harbour. He's doing like I don't know if he's like doing kind of like a more mellow voice or something, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Well, I feel stupid too because no, now that you say, see, I'm getting used to seeing David Harbour in other things now, like the
Mm-hmm.
Marvel
Right.
movies and this and that. And it was only recently I even learned that actor's name, like
Right.
less than a year ago. So I'm like, oh yeah, okay, David Harbour.
No,
Uh,
he's great, and he was great as Tajin.
yes,
Um,
yes. It was he had a very Jedi Master like command in his emotions and his tone.
yeah.
It somewhat reminded me of a Qui-Gon vibe,
Yes. Yeah.
but it wasn't a carbon copy of
Uh
that. It
huh.
was its own thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It worked really well. And
yeah,
Dan, which is kind of a funny.
I thought that was a funny Star Wars name.
It's kind of a funny Star Wars name, just because it's like as far as an Earth name, it's kind of just like,
Yeah,
hey Dan, you know.
Dan.
But it works in Star Wars. You know, it can be
Yeah,
a Star Wars name.
sure.
Jordan
Dan.
Fisher did the voice of Dan.
Jordan
Um,
Fisher sounds familiar. What is he
Oh,
from?
I don't know. He's done some Netflix shows and stuff.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. He's not huge. I think he's a singer too, so you know,
Okay, okay.
he's good. Um,
Yeah.
he played the very the good you know, stereotypical adventure hungry Padawan.
Yes.
That's a pretty big Star Wars trope, but it
It
worked
is
here.
actually,
It worked
especially
here.
for the prequel
Uh
era.
huh.
Like we had so many short stories and comics of that
Hmm.
kind of trope, especially the
And
Jedi Apprentice books.
and the elder was James Hong, which when I was watching the episode,
I know James Hong.
yes, when I was watching the episode, I thought to myself, man, this guy kind of sounds like James Hong.
It's certainly the kind of
I
character
wish,
he would play.
exactly. I wish they had gotten James Hong to do him. And then I looked it up and I was like, it
Wow.
is James Hong. I'm like, what the
Damn.
F?
That is so crazy. It's so funny because in only the last 5 years, I've been watching more slightly obscure sci-fi and horror and TV series from like the 80s and before,
Hmm.
and I can't seem to escape James Hong. He's
Oh,
like
he's
he's in
so
everything.
good. And he's so
Obviously,
good.
Big Trouble in Little China,
Hmm.
but which I think he's probably most well known for. But I mean, he was the bad guy in so many 80s action movies and martial arts things. And he was even in an episode of War of the Worlds TV series from the late 80s.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's awesome. He's great. And
Yeah,
he's really up there. I
he's
think any
usually he's very recognizable if he's
yeah,
doing sort of an over the top or
yeah.
an amped up version of himself, and I
Hmm.
feel like he didn't do that in this, and that's why I had trouble like placing him, because like I said, to me it almost sounded like him, but it wasn't
It's
quite. So
it's
that
kind of
was it was a nice surprise to look that up and see, oh, it was
it's
James
kind
Hong.
of funny because it's so almost on the nose. Oh, here's a ancient Asian evil dark side character.
Right, yeah.
Who should we get to play this?
Well, if you
But no,
got the
that's
money, you
great.
get James Hong.
You
So
get James Hong. Why not?
yeah,
That is great. And I just love that I'm going to go back and see these now and appreciate them on a whole new level.
yeah.
Um,
This I would like to see expanded. I didn't feel like
yeah,
it was setting up anything, but
yeah,
I could watch a series following the adventures of Tajin and
absolutely.
Dan.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe at the very least we'll get a season 2 of Visions with further adventures and
Oh, that'd be great. That'd
anthologies
be
and
great if Visions turned into a series.
I know like a yearly thing.
Uh huh.
That'd be awesome. Okay. The Elder, absolutely great.
Yep.
Also my third favorite, my number 2 behind the Ninth Jedi. And then we got episode 8, Lop and Ocho, which I just call the furry episode. But having said that,
The thought did occur to me.
yeah, I was a little unsure when I saw the promotional materials and I saw this character and I'm like, oh my god, this is so cliched anime in a way. Like, here's the cutesy, overly feminine furry character.
Hmm.
I did really like this one though, but I had some slight issues with it. This one was almost good. This might be like my number 4, possibly. Um, the matte paintings were absolutely
Oh
beautiful of these
yeah.
vast landscapes of the city and the star destroyers looming over the city. Um, This is basically a really good story about opposing political viewpoints with the whole is the Empire helping or hindering things.
Which I
My
like that. I like that aspect of like storytelling these
Me too.
days with the new canon, what they've done
Me
with certain
too.
stories. So
Yeah, very similar to Lost Stars in that way. Um, my main issue with this one, and again, it's a great story. I think story-wise, it was one of the best. There was beautiful thematic things and great dialogue and great characters and everything. The only thing was the planet that they created here was too much like Japan. It was just straight up like, let's just show some Star Destroyers over Tokyo,
you didn't like that
and
though.
it's weird. You would think I would love that, but here's the thing. I mean, like you could do that, like okay, show Coruscant. It's like Neo Tokyo. Like I can kind of see that side of
Uh
things.
huh. Yeah.
But when you're showing like the wooden doors with the paper doors, and you're seeing different Japanese writing here and there, the hanging lanterns, the cherry blossoms,
Mm-hmm.
all the kind of cliched Tokyo things that just when I see those all those elements together, but there's a Star Destroyer hanging in the sky, I'm taken out of the Star Wars universe. I'm not in
Well, I mean,
that universe as much.
yeah, and it doesn't really make it better in that way. But to me, it
And it's
comes
not
off
every
as
scene. It's not every
yeah.
scene. The scenes where they were in that big hangar at the end having the duel, that felt like Star Wars because they were
Mm-hmm.
away from those kind of Japanese architectural elements. And even in that factory where there's like the terrorist explosion that their father was kind of doing and all that, that felt also
Oh,
like very
that
logical. But
shot of her leaving to go try to save Ocho and Lop going to save Ocho, and then it shows the Star Destroyer over the city.
yeah,
It almost like a like an ancient, not ancient, but like a feudal Japan like castle or whatever in the distance.
yes, yeah,
That was
I was
really cool to
noticing
me.
that. I was
I
noticing that the way they blurred it too, where it's like
hmm
like the whole thing was it's so vast. These matte paintings were, and they seemed to be all hand drawn as far as backgrounds and
yeah.
stuff. So it was
I think
just
it was like a reference to feudal Japan and the not the invasion, but like the West coming and you
like
know
England coming in,
yeah,
or
like
even
Western explorers coming and
yeah, yeah,
injecting themselves into their culture and everything, and the Star Destroyer would be the ship in the harbor,
yes,
right? And
yeah,
so not that I know a
yeah,
hell of a lot about the interactions of the West and Japan
hmm.
during that time. I think it was what the 1500s, something like that. That there
Well,
was
things
major.
really changed. Actually, Japan was late to change. It wasn't until the 1800s that they got rid of all their feudal kind of stuff. Because I
Hmm.
remember when trains came to Japan, that was a big thing. That was a whole thing in the Last Samurai movie with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That was a whole side story to that. But
Well, if you want to learn about Japanese history, the first place to stop is a Tom Cruise movie.
absolutely, as it
That's
should
why
be.
I say I know very little, and I probably know more than most, having played
Yeah,
Koei video games set in
yeah.
feudal Japan. But that doesn't.
Genghis Khan too,
Yeah,
Quentin of the Grey Wolf
yeah.
told me everything I need to know about
Uh,
ancient Asian history.
the blurb about the Mongols trying to invade Japan during
Yes.
Kublai Khan's reign is about the most
Yeah.
like real knowledge I have of ancient. That's not. I keep saying ancient, but it's not really ancient. I don't think that
Several hundred
counts.
years
I don't
ago.
think that counts as
Yeah.
ancient.
It
Feudal
would be by
Japan,
North American standards and our political
right?
history.
Yeah,
It would be ancient.
feudal
But
Japan.
yeah, feudal Japan. And
So,
actually, side comment though, those games did help get me interested in so much Asian history. So
mhm.
that is cool. But
So
yeah.
so that's what my takeaway from it. I liked that sort of that style. So I'm a little bit more forgiving of the
Mhm.
planet being just like Japan planet.
Yeah. I guess it
So
works. We got a point. We got different biospheres that are all one thing. Here's one planet that's all Japan.
yeah. So I liked it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, me
I
too.
guess Lop could be a reference to Jackson, right?
Yeah,
The
you're
rabbit.
right. Yeah.
I don't. I haven't done any deep dives to yet to see if that is intentional. I have to
Yeah,
imagine it is, right? You have
right,
to
right. That
imagine it is, but I don't know if
could
like
very well be.
it's overt in like the notes, Lop's notes that she's like the same
Yeah,
species and all that stuff. I don't remember where Jackson comes from, but
yeah, yeah. Headcanon. That's the answer.
yeah.
Was there any famous voices in this one?
Um, no like huge names or anything. No.
Okay, unknowns.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, Episode 9, Akakiri or Akakiri. I'll say in my very
Okay,
Englishized.
so this one I have to ask you because I regrettably have not watched any Kurosawa
Hmm.
really. So I haven't sat down and like delved into that through my love of Star Wars. But
Yeah,
the two guys were they? I mean, was this like a heavily reference to the whatever that movie is?
the peasants
The
from I think Throne
Hidden
of
Fortress.
Blood.
Is it?
Oh no, you're
It
right.
was
It was the
Hidden
Hidden
Fortress,
Fortress.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I wondered that as I saw it. It wasn't on the nose, so I could see it being a possible reference to that, but it wasn't overt.
Okay.
So, but there was now that you mention it, I think in that movie there's scenes where they are hiding in a caravan in a wagon with horses and they're sneaking through different towns because they're trying to smuggle out the princess.
That's what
So
sort of tipped me off to it because I know like
yeah,
a very high level overview of
yes.
and usually it's just in reference to like this is where George he's
Right,
making an
because we've
homage to
heard
these
it in so
movies
many
exactly
documentaries about Star Wars,
but I
in which
haven't
some of
sat down and
yeah,
actually watched the Hidden
yeah.
Fortress and other Kurosawa films
It's
so
been a long time since I saw the Hidden Fortress. I saw it once, like in 2006, as well as Throne of Blood, but other ones I had seen more recently. Um, but yeah, no, now that you mention it, I think that is a nod at the very least, and yeah, this one had good action. I think the facial animation was just so-so in comparison with other segments.
that's the style though I
That's
think.
the style. It seemed to be set after the classic trilogy era. It's weird because they're referencing different Jedi, but there was
Well,
still seemed to
according to
yeah,
the notes, this is set prior to the initial extinction of the Sith. So this
the
is old.
initial extinction like 1,000
I'm
years
guessing, yeah, this is pre
before
Bane and
Bane.
everything. Yeah,
Okay, actually that would make a lot of sense then. The soundtrack to this one was really interesting. It was a lot of percussion
yeah,
and almost gamelan style music, which is common to Southeast Asia, particularly. I think gamelan came from I don't know if it was the Philippines or Guam, but that style I've heard it inserted into rock music sometimes, and it's a very particular percussion kind of thing with a lot of xylophone and this and that, and it gets complex. And I noticed that during the action scenes in particular, this soundtrack would swell up, or it would provide almost like a pulse in slower scenes, and then like
hmm
slow down. And it was interesting. I mean, we've now seen Star Wars, like with the Mandalorian, experiment with different soundtrack
yeah,
styles that are
yeah.
not orchestral. Sometimes they work. I think in the Mandalorian's case, it works with almost synthwave styles here and there, or just weird Western motifs like Ennio Morricone style. But yeah, story wise and everything, this one was good. It was, I would say, it had segments of it that were almost great, but it just I don't know. It wasn't as good as the others. It was just kind of, yeah, that was all right.
This
That's
is
how I felt.
this one I appreciated. Uh, I the soundtrack was a little off-putting, but I kind of liked it. Just I
Yeah,
liked it because
that's
it was
how I felt.
different. I like
Yeah,
even if I didn't like something um like in a
different is good.
TOB1 or T0 is it TO? I guess it's TO.
TOB1,
Yeah.
I guess.
So like in TOB1, I didn't really care for the animation style that much, but I liked that it was different. Like,
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
I didn't care for it, but at the same time I did just because it's like, okay, this is different. So it's like kind of the same
absolutely.
thing where it's like, okay, that's what I liked is that none of these used Star Wars music. So then they
Yeah.
kind of had to do their own thing, and then they did
Hmm.
all sorts of them did different things. So it was just nice to get something different, you
You
know.
know what? To explore that idea for a second, I think the key thing of Star Wars Visions is creativity.
Yes.
It was like here, take Star Wars, take a few elements of Star Wars, now run with it and do your own thing. And I
Yes.
think that's the great thing of seeing it flourish through these own animation studios and these own artists in Japan and just seeing them run with Star Wars and
Uh-huh.
do
And
whatever.
and not to go on any sort of tangent or down a side path, but this is an example of what the I feel like the anthology movies should have been, and what
Yes.
Ryan Johnson should have been tasked with doing on an anthology movie
Hmm.
versus making a mainline movie that was
You
going
know,
to subvert expectations.
I could absolutely see that, even as someone who didn't dislike The Last Jedi as much as you. That is the absolutely great point that Ryan Johnson just instead
His
of mucking with other stuff we already love, just go off and be weird over here
Right.
instead.
That's why in the old EU you had infinities for these kinds of stories and
Right.
things. Disney needs that, which they're kind of figuring that out now. I think
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Visions,
Hmm.
um, they need somewhere to I shouldn't say
The
dump,
dump.
but they need somewhere. They need an outlet for this kind
Here's
of
the
stuff.
sequel trilogy. Just dump it over here.
Well, almost. I mean, at this point, right? Because they need
At
an
this point.
outlet. They need an outlet for that, and I think we've talked about like negativity and positivity and all that stuff, and how it relates to like the sequels, and like I could just eviscerate the sequel trilogy with how much it really pisses me off in a lot of ways.
And to hear more of that, just tune into Lore Play
Uh
commentaries
huh.
every Friday
But
here on Star Wars Unfiltered.
but I would rather think of the think of things in a positive way. So in the positive way, that's where Ryan Johnson should have been in a some sort of other outlet, because Ryan
Yeah.
Johnson's really,
Yeah.
he's really talented, and
Yeah.
he's got good ideas, and there's a lot of things about The Last Jedi that are great, and they would have fit really well into like a
Yes.
crazy anthology movie that didn't care about canon and didn't care about
Yeah.
established themes and all that stuff. And so all of these Vision cartoons, even though some of them didn't click with me, some of the things I didn't really like, but I could appreciate all of it because
Hmm.
part of it is because of how they were presented to me, right? How they were
Yes,
presented to the
absolutely.
fans. So I really don't understand. I can't understand anyone shitting on
As a
these
whole.
shorts, any individual short or the whole thing as a whole, because of how they're presented. They're just
It's presented also like a serial. It's an anthology, yes, but each one is also starting in the middle of its
yes,
story in a lot of
yes,
cases,
uh-huh.
just like A New Hope in media res. So therefore, you get the sense that it is part of this larger universe as it's happening. And that's what I love is that all of these had a logical consistency. Like you're just tuning in and you just happen to catch this particular episode.
Right. And so this
And
one
yeah.
and the final one, Akakiri, one of the things I really liked about this, is it was the the middle of a trilogy almost, right? Because it like ends on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really downer note,
It does,
It's
which I
like
appreciated.
some of the other ones kind of did too, like Lop and Ocho, like,
Hmm.
it's like they didn't win, but they didn't lose. There's still like hope in it. There's
Yeah.
like this is like there's no hope really. This is like
Actually, I think that's Japanese culture right there. Living in Tokyo on the edge of the Ring of Fire and
uh-huh.
dealing with Hiroshima and then they have these almost nightmare fuel that they pour into Godzilla movies and all these things of
Uh-huh.
dystopia and destruction. I could see this as being an element of the Japanese culture.
So
Like,
I thought this was a really cool choice to be the last episode, right?
yeah, yeah, I think you're
Because
right.
it ended on a downer. And one thing I did notice is, well, this is a notice. It's like a big thing in it, but the dyad or whatever, the implied
Yes.
dyad with the force healing and all that stuff to
Right.
save the princess, and then he resigns himself to his fate as what's her face's apprentice,
Yeah, and wasn't that
Masago.
interest wasn't that interesting, Masago? You think it's a dude at first, this giant buff character, and it's like, oh, that's the sister of the princess or whatever who
Mm-hmm.
has been, I guess, changed through the dark side, or maybe she just works out at the gym all the time and cut her hair. I don't know. But she was absolutely scary, almost on the same level as the Sith from the Elder. It was just creepy
Mm-hmm.
and weird and totally out there. Almost reminded me of a Street Fighter 2 character in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
know what you mean.
like over the top, like muscle bound and just scary.
Yeah, and all of these, I think, yeah. The nice thing was you didn't always know what to expect
Yeah, yeah,
with any of
uh,
them, so it's kind of
absolutely.
refreshing.
It was refreshing.
And
And
so
yeah.
the only name I really recognized from the cast of this one was George Takai.
Okay,
Was
okay,
He played Cho, or not
okay.
Cho, Senshu. Cho was the actor for the Japanese version of it for that
Hmm,
character, Senshu. Everybody else,
okay.
they're named actors, but I don't recognize them,
But
so
unknown, right.
they mean nothing to me, and so
Good way to wrap it up.
I won't name them because I'm an asshole.
Right. That's the way to do it. We have to save space in our brains at this age. All right. That's Star Wars Visions. Hope everyone enjoyed our very long-winded review, but I wanted to get to each of these individually because they deserved it. Each one was very worthwhile, even the lesser ones. They're definitely creative and interesting and unique. And I just this whole thing, like I'll say again, I didn't know what to expect with Visions. I thought this just might be a weird one-off and I wouldn't care for it once it aired. But there's certain characters and stories and segments of this that just grabbed me, like grabbed my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Ninth Jedi, The Elder, and Tatooine Rhapsody, man, those are just, we've got to see more. We absolutely have to see more of
I
these
hope
in
so.
some shape or form.
I
So
hope so.
anyway, that about wraps things up for this episode of Star Wars Unfiltered. Remember, if you would like to, hear more episodes, just check out our YouTube channel, of course, Star Wars Unfiltered. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram, doing updates here and there on all things related to the YouTube channel, of course. Check out our Lore Play commentaries. Those are coming just about every Friday. Every single Friday. I don't think I've missed one. And right now we're recording the Super Empire Strikes Back. We have a couple more episodes of Super Star Wars coming out very soon here. Those are going to be ending. But yeah, lots of fun. And remember, everyone, take care and may the Force be with you.
Good night.